I want to know your favorite song, Martha.
Why 7? We had a question you about
80 years
that.
ago.
That's
Oh.
let's start with that one. Let's start with this.
7th
Yeah,
birthday.
can you remember your 7th
The
birthday?
seventh grade.
Why 7? It's 80 years
There's
ago.
something about it, I think.
Well, it's 80 years ago.
Oh,
80 years ago, your 7th birthday.
It is.
Oh,
What
yeah.
did you guys do?
Well, what do you remember?
Well, we probably had a birthday cake and that's all.
Next question.
Yeah.
79th birthday.
What kind of cake?
Yeah, what kind
What
of
kind of cake
Yeah.
did you
Huh?
have? Did your mother make your cakes?
Yeah, mother made the cake.
What kind of cakes?
Well, usually just a white cake or chocolate cake. Nothing in today's world kind of thing.
Well, she didn't put it, she put just a very limited amount of frosting on it.
Is that the Clare syndrome?
Didn't cover the sides.
That's where the Clare syndrome started.
Did you get presents?
No,
No.
Did Danny and Bev usually go to your birthday party,
I
or
think they were there.
did you have a birthday party, or just
No, we never had a party. Just
no?
Just
Well,
a cake.
we had our first birthday party when we were 8 years old,
oh.
as I remember.
Oh.
And we never had a party before that, for acknowledgement. Do you remember that? Our first birthday party?
Where was it like? Did people come to it?
Well, we had a few friends. Am I dreaming, or is that true?
a good
We didn't have
party.
very many friends.
I'll tell you one thing that, we didn't get anything for our birthdays, a little bit for Christmas, Martha and I always wanted a bicycle. We just wished and wished we could have a bicycle, and it wasn't there, we couldn't afford it, so we never got a bicycle. But we had to walk 3 miles to school every day, walk 3 miles to school and 3 miles home. And we wanted a bicycle.
Did you have some friends that had
I've always loved a bicycle, and when I got my first bicycle in Davis, I just lived on my bicycle. I just loved it.
Oh.
Yeah, I finally got a bicycle.
Oh,
Yeah.
years later, huh?
But did you learn to ride it when you were an adult?
What?
Did you learn to ride the bicycle
Yeah.
as a child?
Well, I think we did. We had a funny little tricycle and a little funny little middle bicycle, but
And as we got older, we rode other people's bicycles. We learned how to ride bicycles. It was brand new to you.
As I was walking that river of highway, I saw above me that the sky and the skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from Redwood Forest to the New Waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond desert, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the redwood forest to the ocean waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. You guys know that verse about one?
What were some memories of your dad?
So, but my dad, he had a tent outside, and that's where he stayed. And he didn't stay in the house because
Well, that was in his last years, earlier.
But you remember the
Yeah.
most.
So that's your first memory. I mean, that's what came out
that's
of your
not my
mouth.
first memory.
No, not your first one.
You remember him before he was in the tent?
Yeah, I do, but I think he was in the tent most of the time. I don't think he ever slept in the house when we were kids. We slept with Mother in that bedroom.
Well, what do you remember, Mom, about the tent? Or about him being outside the tent?
Well, I remember him being outside, but I thought it was toward the last of his life. And Mother he had tuberculosis, so Mother always had his spoon and his fork and everything with a little string around it. We couldn't ever use his plate or utensils or anything. She was very careful. And Martha and I have to get a tuberculosis shot every year. It would make a big red spot. It was positive or something, but we didn't have it. But you had to be very careful about not getting tuberculosis.
And that's why he slept in the
And
tent.
then when we were 9 years old, he was in his he slept in his tent and everything for a few years, and then he was a Christian Scientist. You know, he believed that he would be healed, and he read his Bible and his books a lot. He had a lot of faith, and so when he got really ill, Martha and I were 9 years old. When he got really ill, finally he had to leave the house. I remember that clearly, to get him out of his tent and everything. And he went up to Mount St. Helena, and there was a sanitarium up there. And Martha and I were too young, and they wouldn't allow us to go up and see him. So I remember we had this kitchen window facing Mount St. Helena, and it was a bench right there. I remember just kneeling on the bench and looking at Mount St. Helena. I wanted to see him, but we couldn't see him.
What about Clara?
Yeah.
And I remember also the day they took him to the hospital. We were in the living room. He had his white nightgown on, and all of a sudden, and he was down on the couch, and all of a sudden these two people came in and took him out to the car and took him off. And I, that was such a trauma to me, but I didn't quite know what was all going on, and so that's the last I saw of him, and he was, and I didn't know what was going on at all.
We never talked about it.
They didn't explain it to you.
Didn't-
Claire
Nobody
didn't.
did.
Didn't Clara say anything?
They didn't do that in that era.
Did you didn't say goodbye or anything?
No,
I think
no,
so.
no
They
goodbye.
never said goodbye to him.
But we really, our father is a wonderful man. He was very kind and helped anybody out, and quite social and very hard worker and everything. But Martha and I never knew him too well because he was ill most of the time we were growing up. He
All
had
the
tuberculosis for years before, It was,
How did he contract it? How did he get sick?
He was working. It was during the war, and there was this flu epidemic, and he got the flu, and he didn't take care of himself properly. And it went into,
That was
that was the
1916.
First World War.
That was a bad thing.
yeah.
Wasn't that the flu that killed like 30 million people
Yeah.
worldwide? Like
And
19,
it turned into tuberculosis.
1916 or 17?
Really? It was that flu
It was the
that
worst
you got?
thing ever.
Yeah.
Well, how did it turn into tuberculosis?
Well, I guess he didn't take care of
You have to
it.
It goes
take care of
into
your
your
lungs.
lungs.
and It's into your...
I remember one thing that he did in the kitchen. It was such a joy to me. I could get on his foot, and we'd play horsey together, and that was such a joy to me because usually he was sort of out there or didn't know where he was.
He never held us because he didn't want to get so close to us.
And Beverly had such a different experience with him because he was a very kind, loving loved people, and she would sit on his lap, and he'd play, get the old phonograph out and play music for her operas and things, and she'd sit on his lap, and so he was a different kind of a person when she was growing up.
Well, she was
He wasn't sick.
8 years older than
Yeah.
us, so.
What, and Danny
So
too?
we were kind of pushed away, but we couldn't drink out of his cup, or we had to be careful where we crawled and everything.
After he went to the hospital, did you see him again?
What about Clara? She left the hospital.
Did she have to?
Well, she regretted
Yeah,
that
that's
she didn't
the
go back the night that the doctor said he probably wouldn't last,
Yeah.
and she didn't go to the camps.
Well, who were some of those people?
Well, and Alice, she had the general store and the post
Oh,
office.
she owned that.
She owned that in
She
Yonkers?
owned, no, in Stinson Beach.
Oh.
And my
That was my father's relative.
Didn't you guys
They
own?
owned a lot of Stinson Beach.
They owned a lot of
Your
property.
father's relatives.
And houses.
And Annie knows all about our grandfathers because
Well, their grandpa started the school that I work at.
Wow, that's
He
trippy.
was
You're
one of the
kidding.
three trustees.
Wait, not the grandpa. The grandpa?
our grandfather.
Lyman?
Wow.
Lyman who?
I'm in Beecher, DeKalb.
Oh, Lyman Beecher. I remember
Beecher.
you talked about Lyman Beecher. Is that the
If
name?
you go to the museum in Bolinas,
Lyman
there's
Beecher,
a-
yeah.
it's all about, they talk all about.
Really?
There's a whole chapter in the history book.
Yeah, about
It's
the
about
camps that started the post office.
And he named Stinson Beach. It was Willow Camp, and there was another Willow Camp, so he named it.
Really?
Stinson
How did he
Beach.
come up with
Wow.
Stinson?
There was a family.
That owned a lot of land there. So he wanted to open up. One day, he was walking along and it was raining, and he found a letter of his in the mud. So he felt like he needed to start a post office because he. So
Really?
he applied. It took him a lot of years. For a couple years for them to approve it, but they didn't want. He wanted to call it Willow Camp because that's what that place was called by the
There are
local.
willows all over Stinson Beach.
Oh.
What
Were there
year?
willows down by the more willows down by the beach?
Yeah.
There still are the dunes.
Yeah, by the parking lot.
What year was that Stinson Beach? I mean, like the store started. What year was that?
I think 20?
Was that
I
like?
think they owned it before we were even born.
Wow.
Stinson Beach.
And there were I think it was. I don't know that, but he was the one that started.
I think it's interesting that that just coincidentally all of us have a connection kind of to Stinson Beach over the years. I mean, in one way or another.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happens he founded it. I mean, just kind of a
And the same guy was on the first board of the school there, and that's where Annie teaches now.
yeah. It's just it's hard to figure out those
So
things.
his
sometimes.
daughter was Aunt Alice,
And Alice
and she
That's a
stayed
good
there.
question.
Yeah.
And then was anybody else from the family?
Yeah, who
I
else?
guess it's my great
A lot of the
Is that
aunts and uncles lived at Stinson Beach at that time
I'm
when
sure
we were
there
growing up.
probably is a picture.
And they,
We should do this with conjunction.
that's where they lived.
They had
The photo.
houses down on the,
We'd go
near the
visit.
beach and some on the hill.
I don't remember, Mom.
And there were nine people. My father was one of 9.
Oh, one of 9?
Have you?
Wow.
Is there a
What were
picture?
the
He
names?
ran out of memory.
Uncle
Do you have
Jack.
anyone have a?
Somebody.
Well, I'm just thinking if we're gonna.
And there was
Oh,
Aunt Emma.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
Noah's doing it. Oh,
No,
okay.
is that?
Is there a picture?
Okay, good. We're covered.
Okay.
Okay, wait a
Are we
minute.
writing this down?
We didn't get to hear what you said.
Yeah, we couldn't hear what you said.
The names of the.
I don't think the audio is going to come.
Margaret was the oldest.
That's okay.
Oldest.
Because there were nine people and 9 children in the decampment. My father's family. He was one of 9.
Wow.
Which one?
Where in the line?
Yeah.
Middle, I think. And there was Uncle Jack, who wasn't very bright. He was always, he was a little odd. And then my father,
He lived over in Stinson.
and then it was Aunt Emma, and Aunt Dottie, and Aunt Louise, and they all lived over at the beach. And Aunt Louise, and Aunt Alice, and there was one that died, Marge,
She was the oldest.
And who else was there?
And there was Lee, but we didn't know
Oh, yeah,
him either.
Lee. That
Who was
another
Dewey?
brother. And they were all Christian Scientists.
Oh,
They do?
All
That's a good-
Christian
very
Oh, it's
good
because of
question.
John, did you
Beecher.
name Lee after Lee?
What? No.
Who
because
the-
of the dad,
who the hell
Beecher.
was Dewey?
It's not what
Dewey?
became a Christian Scientist.
John Dewey.
And didn't they live in Berkeley also?
Oh,
Who was
I
Dewey?
don't think so.
Was there a man named Dewey in your family?
Dewey.
Dewey.
Kids wanted to know that for decades.
Sarah's, my cousin's husband, Dewey.
You feel better now? You know who Dewey is? They're cousins.
The DeCamps did live in Berkeley. They lived right across from the university. There.
Wow.
Bancroft, or-
They were,
They were all, and my grandfather was the inventor of oil roads. You know, they just had dusty roads, and
Oh, yeah.
he was the
Oh,
one.
really?
So would he pour oil on it, or was he?
oiled them.
He
That
was
was a very
oil.
good idea.
So before they had like asphalt.
Yeah, it'd keep the dust
That
out.
was before.
Was he an engineer?
What
And
kind of
figured
oil?
out?
Just inventor.
Yeah.
So did the DeCamps have some money at one time?
They did.
Well,
It sounded like if they owned.
they did. My father's father lived in Hartwell, Ohio, and they built the whole town. Well, there were about 10 brothers, and all the brothers were builders, and they all built this town of Hartwell, Ohio. So that's why you're a builder,
And
Ken.
that's why.
And their names
Dewey.
DeCamp. There's DeCamp Streets.
Really?
Wow.
So they made money, you know.
And another thing that you have to know is the DeCamps have pictures hanging in the Louvre.
Oh, in the Louvre.
Oh, John DeCamp?
Joseph Roderick.
Oh, that's Duchamp.
And he was an American Impressionist.
Yeah, he was. We have a picture at their house. Yeah,
And what was his name?
I guess
Joseph Roderick.
he was
Joseph
one of the
Robert.
10. There was like 10 really up in the United States or in the U.S. There were, I
10
think,
most
what it says.
influential.
There were 10 impressionists.
Really?
He was one of them.
Wow.
At least in this book.
I have this book that they went to. All the brothers went to visit President Lincoln.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
There's a picture of
Yeah.
them shaking his hand.
Really?
We have a DeCamp,
Abe Lincoln?
a book. We have a DeCamp. The next time you're over at my mom's, you can.
It shows
Doesn't there a
them
picture of
shaking
him
his
shaking
hand.
Abe's?
Well, unfortunately, President Lincoln isn't there.
What? Whose hand is it shaking?
It's a fake.
Well, I remember seeing Abe Lincoln.
That's the story that all the brothers went to see President Lincoln, and there's all the brothers are sitting there, but I don't see President Lincoln. That's the story.
It's verbal. It's an oral history.
So is that Beecher's, Lyman Beecher's grandfather or great grandfather?
It was his brothers.
Oh, Lyman Beecher's brothers?
No, it was Lyman Beach.
Well, let's see. If
That's
Lyman
Daniel's-
Beecher's there, okay, so their dad was
My
born
grandfather,
probably in.
he was in the Civil War. So he was,
Your
Grandfather?
grandfather was?
Lyman Beecher
Lyman
was?
Beecher was in the Civil War.
Wow.
He fought.
Real young.
Their dad would have
Really.
been born in like,
And
born
he
in
died
like
in
1900 or
Yonkers
something.
at the
So
Veterans
then
Home.
his dad would have
The,
been born.
the year we were born.
He did, really? And he-
1865.
Well, that's, if he was in the Civil War
So
and he
his
died when
dad-
he was born,
Yeah.
that means he was a very, either a very old guy when he died or very young, because that was 60 years earlier.
That's too general.
He died in 1927?
No, who? Are you talking about Lyman
War was-
Beecher?
No, their grandfather.
Or is
That's
that
Lyman
1860?
Beecher.
Oh, that's all I
But she
know.
was saying
He was in the
grandfather's
war when he was about 16.
Yeah.
And that's
And that was
that's a lot of years.
1864,
Yeah.
1860, yeah.
Yeah.
So when did he
Oh, I
die?
see.
In turn of the century? No.
When they were born.
27?
The year they were born.
Oh, he
Oh,
was
so you
a
never
long.
met him?
Huh?
You never met
No.
Lyman Beecher?
But I guess you, Bev and Danny.
I knew my grandmother, Mary Frances DeCamp. That was his wife. We knew her. She lived on.
in Stinson Beach.
She was part. Yeah.
Oh, so she lived in Berkeley, but then she would come to the beach house? Is that
Yeah,
what?
I guess they did do that. But
Second home, Stinson Beach.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a bad life, Berkeley. And
The DeCamps were kind of aristocratic people. You know,
And after
I don't know how they made their money, but they always had nice houses and
educated.
Well, how did you guys end up on that little farmhouse there?
And so poor.
I mean, you
Poor.
had to milk the
That's
goats?
the other side of the family. My grandfather that was in
Not,
my
none?
mother's mother.
Oh, you're saying that
What'd you expect?
They came in the
Yeah, well, they can't have it
covered
all.
wagons from
One of them
Missouri,
had-
and they were just farmers, and they
The
were
nuns were?
kind of different kind of people.
Well, so you're saying your dad's side was aristocratic?
aristocrats. Your
Aristocratic?
dad's side
Huguenots,
Decan?
right? Weren't they Huguenots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Huguenot, French Huguenots.
How do you know so much about our family?
I know more about yours than
I didn't know Lyman Beecher was my granddad,
You're
or
great.
my great-granddad.
And then there was a woman who came from him named Gail. Her last name was Gail, Peggy Gail, I think, who actually gave our school a good endowment for the library.
Really? That's very interesting.
Peggy Gail, I think she was the wife or cousin, or she lived in Simpson, but she's related to Lyman Beecher, because it said that in the book.
So did you say the nuns were also aristocratic or only,
They were farm kind of.
they were farmers?
And you got stuck with that part of it.
Covered wagons and pioneers. They were pioneers.
Oh, so that's where you get your that's what, that explains a lot of things. So you had this rugged individualistic spirit, adventurous, and then you had the artistic kind of,
That's right.
and so we all turned out kind of somewhere in the middle there.
I think Kenny is a real decamp, because he's kind of that kind, compassionate counselor type, and
But
then
he's
he's a
rugged,
builder.
I
individualistic.
think David.
No, yeah, that's the other type. You think David is? Oh, David.
Way to pass it off.
I think Richard is.
Well, do you know much about the nuns? About the nuns,
Okay,
I always
we'll
hear
talk
about this
about
other
that.
side of the family, but I've
Okay.
never heard anything.
My grandfather had a lot of stories to tell, and he came from Missouri, and he hitchhiked on a train out to California, and he was related to, his mother was a Penland, and there was a whole bunch of Penlands. But anyway, he came out, and my grandmother lived down on the Silverado Trail in my great-grandmother's house, Grandma Stagg's house.
Oh, yeah.
And they came from Colorado Springs, and
Really?
and they lived there.
So they went from Missouri to Colorado or something?
Uh,
They went from Missouri to
oh, no,
Colorado?
that was my grandfather came out from Missouri, and my grandmother had lived on the
Stags.
Silverado Trail with her mother,
And they came from.
and they came
Before they met.
Colorado.
Before they
Colorado Springs.
Oh,
then they met.
And then they
And
met.
then they met. So they were. How would you describe them?
I don't know them. I didn't know them.
I mean,
What about the nuns, your grandparents?
well, we had quite a bit to do with them, you know. I remember my grandfather always falling asleep.
Hello? Hello?
On the floor.
It skips a generation.
Let's skip the generation. Yeah. And a family.
And cross the bloodline.
She was kind of yearning for that gene.
Yeah. Somebody had to get it.
So he fell asleep.
But he had a newspaper over his head.
Oh, that's, is that, somebody give him a newspaper.
And he snored?
He snored. And every once in a while, he would swat a fly, you know.
Joan?
And the old paper would go crinkling, and
he'd cuss.
And then he chewed tobacco and spit it?
He did.
Oh.
No, he rolled his own.
Oh, okay.
This was none. This was your grandfather.
Did they have prunes?
they had prunes, and they had grapes, and
So
then
they were
they had
farmers, right?
also cows, and they had a pasture. So that was my grandfather's. He had grapes, and he had prunes, and we picked prunes all when we were kids.
Did he have a
We
tractor?
milked the cow.
And milked the cow.
And that was all in Yountville?
Yeah.
That was all Yountville?
And did he use a horse or a
A
tractor?
tractor. And we
That's
had
the one we
chickens.
destroyed, Bo.
He said wagon.
Oh, well, we got that too.
It was a different life.
I don't know that story.
Tell us about your turkeys.
Our turkeys.
Yeah, the turkeys at your house.
You have wild turkeys?
Oh, that ran after you when you went to the outhouse?
Yeah.
Our friends. Yeah, we had these two turkeys,
Yeah.
pet turkeys that wandered around the front door and everything. And
Pet turkeys.
Martha and I like to get on their backs and ride them or stand up. And,
Wow.
but they got mean. They pecked you, and so Mother would give us the broom every time we got.
We had to go to the toilet way out there.
We'd swap the turkeys.
Every time you went to the toilet.
But first they were real pets, and we hugged them and rode on them, and they came in the house. And then, because they were so domesticated, they got turned mean.
Oh.
And then later on, they'd get us down with their feathers and spur us, you know. Mother had to come out with the broom, get them off of us.
Oh,
Were you
The
traumatized?
toilet, she gave us the broom.
Did you ever eat them?
My father
Raised them
raised
Did you-
turkeys.
for Thanksgiving.
And so you killed them once a year or something?
They got their revenge.
Yeah.
We had to walk a long way down a path to go to the toilet. We had a little outhouse. Can you believe it?
What if you had to go at night?
Well, that's our problem.
Did you have
No, that was, we had a pot under
oh,
the,
really?
and Mother would always say before we went down to the toilet, is, now watch out for the black widow spiders. You have to look
Nice.
down the hole to see if they're
Oh, look down the hole?
Did you ever see one?
Yeah.
How would you see one at night though?
Yeah.
It's black.
Eat off the turkeys and then
I want to see them.
I'd rather just hold it.
Did you have this experience all the way through high school? Was that up until you went to college? Was that your lifestyle?
no, that was just when we were children.
So
We
what
were in a
changed?
different house when we were kids, young.
Thought you were in that same house the whole time.
No,
Was that the house that you grew up in?
First we had a house in this ranch. It was close to my grandfather's house, but it was on the other side of the hill. And then my grandfather was right there. And then when he and my grandmother died, then we went down and lived in their house.
Which is the house with the grandfather hill?
Which one was that? Was on the,
That was the first house. Grandfather hill.
well, no, we lived in the house before that.
just
When we were 2 years old, we lived on this house next to my grandfather's house.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so, and this house was a kind of a nice house, but we had, we didn't have any running water. We had a pump in our kitchen, and we didn't have any electricity.
And our cooler for keeping milk cool, you know, we had this long, big
Yeah.
box. It was all covered with burlap under the tree.
Oh.
It had still on stills. It was underneath the tree, and then on top there was this tin thing that had sides on it, and they put water in the tin above this box, and so it dripped down all the time onto this burlap. It kept the burlap wet, and so it kept our milk cool.
Wow. Even on hot days?
Well, it did a little.
They didn't work too
It
well.
wasn't very cool.
Yeah.
And you milked the cows.
And you made butter, cottage cheese. And
You worked hard then, didn't you? Did you work a lot?
hard, yeah.
So
And then we went to this one little schoolhouse, like there were only 8 kids in the whole schoolhouse. And Mary and I were the only one in every class, you know. We didn't have any school classmates, you know. We were the only ones, you know. All 8 grades, Mary and I would be the only ones.
We graduated from the 8th grade, just the two of us.
That was probably the biggest class ever.
the size double.
Other school.
Then we went to high school, and we had to get on the bus and go clear down to Napa and meet this huge all these people, you know, and we didn't know anything about all these people. And we had classmates, and we had
Different teachers.
different teachers, and it was really hard. But we always had each other. I mean, there was no problem because we always had each other.
Yeah, but we didn't. I don't think we ever adapted to high school.
No, I don't think so.
That was that big 2 or 3 story building
Yeah,
or
it
something.
was a big.
So, what was harder, being attacked by turkeys and looking for black widows, or going into a big school with
We went to a big school.
going that was
Yeah.
traumatizing?
I'm sure that's
But you had saddle shoes and
Yeah,
cute
that-
outfits, right?
Saddle suit.
There were some pictures of you in a.
How old were you when you quit milking cows?
Quit milking them?
Yeah. What years of your life did you milk your own cow?
When was the last time you milked the cow?
Well, I think when we went,
Maybe.
I don't know, we went to college.
In high school, were you still milking?
I don't think we milked them all the time. Did we, Martha?
No, it was just a period. It wasn't for a long, long time. It was a period of time.
It's just the
I
trend.
love milking the cow.
You loved it?
I did. There's a certain way you have to do it.
Do you think you
Get
could
the
do
milk
it?
out.
Did Linda and Ronnie live with you there for a while? And how old were you when they all moved in there?
Martha and I were in college then, and they came and lived with Mother.
Oh, after you'd moved out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whenever they kind of moved in and out.
I think I've had it.
With or without her kids.
With the interview.
Well, we have another 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. We want to move into the college years.
Yeah, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. No.
This is an 8-hour contract.
Yeah, an 8-hour contract.
Nice years too. I love that.
What?
I love those years after I left home.
Oh.
Well, you couldn't wait to get out of the house, all right?
Well,
You guys were
I
getting,
wasn't unhappy there, but it's just nice to get out of the house and
yeah.
go on.
Then you met the Bobs, and that's a whole nother.
Were they?
And then we got the Bobs.
Were you?
Bobs.
And didn't you move to Berkeley and you had saved up money and it was gone?
Yeah.
By
Well, Martha and I worked at Mare Island during the war, just the end of the war, and we took the bus down after we got out of high school. And so we saved all our money. We both worked in the same office. Can you believe it? Mare Island.
You took the bus every day from Napa?
I'm from Yountville.
From Yountville
my
to Mare Island?
gosh.
Wow.
Wow. It was like an hour or two.
Must have got it done.
That's where all your money went, right?
No, they
In the bus fare?
At the bus
They
must have made
we spent all our money that we had saved in the first semester. And we lived in the dorm, and it took a lot of
And then you lived with Danny.
Yeah, then we lived with our brother.
But I had no idea how to handle these college people either. You know, they would do things that I never even knew about, like introducing each other or something like that. And I just didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was such a big change.
Oh.
Interview each other?
No, just how to introduce a person.
Oh, introduce.
and
Okay.
what all these.
But that was the best
Social skills.
I just loved those years in college.
Oh, did
I just
you?
loved them.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Was it 4 years?
Great.
You went to UC Berkeley, that's why you left.
I know.
It's like great.
How would you know?
Well, just the fact you went to Berkeley. Wow.
Oh, one more year and we could have.
That's funny that this little farmhouse ended up at UC.
I never built it.
It's probably the closest.
It's funny how.
Closest school.
It's funny.
Day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot, I froze to death. Susanna, don't you cry.
Here we go.
Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from California with the banjo on my knee.
Yeah.
Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with the banjo on my knee.
Oh.
There is a lot of verses. They're all
David. Come on. Get on my face.
Hey, you guys keep going. I just got my video ready. You just
Hey, I've been filming.
Can you just recreate what you just did?
On yours.
just do it.
Well, yeah.
I never.
Man, this is a real
David
gig.
is a rock star.
I'm a rock star. Hey, what about red hair boy? You start on the E.
Sorry, I just turned on.
Ah. Hey, you're blinding me.
How does this start?
Steven, what is that?
Starts on the
It turns it on.
Remember that? You always started on the open. Look at this, 4 sound. We have 4 people.
Gabby, Gabby,
Pick up
Gabby.
a guitar and all.
Gabby, Gabby, Gabby.
Hey, geeks, what
Oh, turn around, quick.
video?
Don't let her see you.
He's taking pictures again.
On your mark.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.